Welcome to another episode of the brand called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I am delighted and privileged to welcome a very senior and respected leader from the world of philanthropy and the social sector from North Carolina, USA, Mr. Jay Sehgal. Jay, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the kind introduction as well.
Thank you.
Pleased to be here.
Jay is the Executive Vice President of the Sehgal Foundation in USA and the Chairperson of the S M Sehgal Foundation in India. So, Rajat, Jay, before we start talking about the Sehgal Foundation, a few questions for you. What inspired your transition from a career in IT and business to leading philanthropic efforts in rural India?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think it has to go. I'll share a short story with you from the
Yeah.
very beginning. I landed in the U.S. Due to my thanks to my uncle and my aunt,
Hmm.
uh, Dr. Suri Sehgal and his wife Eda Sehgal, at the young age of 16 years old in 1977. And when I arrived in the US and I saw many people talk about India, but nobody talked about India in a positive sense at that particular time.
Correct.
The conditions and the things with it. So from very, that bothered me from the very beginning. Of course, you compare US and India, that comparison comes in and, everything's available here, and India was still at that particular time struggling
Absolutely.
to make things happen. This is a story I never shared with anybody before, but I actually said, I'm going to study politics in the US.
Hmm.
And I'm going to go back and make a difference in the lives of the people, lives of the country. I'm going to change everything. That was a very young mind thinking
Hmm.
as to how I can make a difference
Yeah.
in India with the people, and make it how can I can contribute to the success of the country. And that's how that I think in the back of my mind always played out in my,
Hmm.
that I have to make a difference somehow.
Hmm.
Fortunately, of course, the careers, once you go to college, things change.
Yeah.
My career changed and my ideas changed. But that has always been in back of my mind,
Hmm.
how I can make a difference. So I ended up in information technology, studying
Hmm.
information technology in the
Hmm.
school, in the college,
Yeah.
as well as then graduating and working in the IT field. And very early time at that time, IT was not a very popular field, but Dr. Suri and Dr. Suri is a very visionary, and he particularly said he go into IT at that particular time. So I was very fortunate to have that knowledge and have that guidance at the very
Hmm.
beginning of my career. And I chose IT and worked for various IT companies in the US, and then of course joining Dr. Suri and Eda Sehgal in India for our seed company. Dr. Suri is a seedsman. He is a renowned agriculture scientist, and he worked for a very large seed company in the US, and then after that, he started his own companies around the world.
Hmm.
And so I ended up joining Hands with Dr. Suri in 1992, and moved to India and started working with our Pro Agro seed company. And I
Hmm.
think that also gave me a lot of when I was we were working in IT, and the seed business doesn't not happen in metros, it happens in the rural areas. So
Hmm.
we used to take computers to the rural areas and try to teach the people computers
Hmm.
and knowledge, and that gave me experience, actually grassroots experience, yeah, also as to, and then you go to the metros, to the rural areas, you see the poverty, you see the struggles that people face, and that encouraged me to also think about what else can be done. And
Hmm.
it's fortunate for me that as the companies were liquidated in 1999, Dr. Suri has and his wife Edas decided to put aside most of their lifetime savings to give back to the country of their origin. And this was a great opportunity for me at that particular time. Say,
Hmm.
okay, now is an opportunity that I can also make a difference. Of
mm,
course, I also, in back of my mind, I also wanted to see Dr. Suri and Eda's vision come through of this organization succeeding, and gave me an opportunity to lead an organization in that
mm,
particular aspect.
mm.
So I think there was a right
Yeah,
choice for me at
yeah.
that particular time to move from information technology to
Oh, amazing. What a
rural
great
development.
response. And thank you for all that you're doing for India.
Sure.
My next question for you, Jay, is what are some of the personal values or moments that have most guided your journey into service and rural development?
I think the ideas of successful business, and you would agree to that. I think we particularly focused on you have to have a discipline in the business. You have to work
Correct.
hard in a business. You have to have honesty and leadership skills in that particular aspect to
Mm,
succeed. And these are the values I learned from very early.
mm,
As you would know, in the U.S., when you are a young person, you have the opportunity to directly go to work. And I
mm,
worked in a restaurant from the 16 years of age
mm,
to start. And the key thing there was I really learned is that hard work will lead to success. Your
mm.
honesty will lead to success. Your discipline, you have to have discipline. And the third, no, not to rank in that particular aspect, but surrounding yourself with good people. It
Mm.
also is really a big
Correct.
sport. So
Correct. Correct.
people aspect also made a lot of difference in it. I think those disciplines actually we practice in our seed business. When I was heading IT and in all the management, Dr. Suri praised those principles really in the organization, and as well as I followed them in took those same discipline into the rural development aspect. And those are the key aspects that I learned at a
Very
very early
interesting.
age that I
Very
continue
interesting. Thank you.
to
So
preach
let's now
in.
talk about the Sehgal Foundation.
Sure.
And you've been, talking to me about Dr. Suri, and obviously he's given back so much to not just the foundation but to India. What
Hmm.
was Dr. Suri's vision behind the foundation, and how has it evolved since then?
Dr. Suri is passionate. His passion is agriculture. You look at it how all his life is spent in agriculture, and he knows the poor farmers in India hardly makes any money whatsoever.
Correct.
So
Mm,
his passion, he won now that there's the family and himself, they had financial resources to do something for the farmers. So he, from very beginning, he said, I want to give it back to the country of my origin, and especially make difference with the farming community so
mm,
they can evolve. Because as you know, India being an agrarian community, agrarian
mm.
country, it really needs to make a lot of difference
Yeah.
in those regions.
Mm,
So he put most of his passion behind how we can bring good technologies to the farmer, good seed to the business, to the farmers, make sure they understand the technology. So how do you bring, his vision was how do we empower the farmers? How do we
mm.
empower the rural communities? And
Right.
that is really, and Edda, his wife Edda, is very passionate about women empowerment. And she
Mm,
also wanted to make sure that whatever we do, we need to make sure the women and these young girls in the
mm,
villages get opportunities to that. So that's how their vision initially vision formulated in their mind, and
mm,
how they can take now we have the opportunity how we can make that difference in the lives
mm,
of people in the rural communities. And that's
mm.
how our vision evolved and their vision evolved. And we are very fortunate today, where we started with a handful of villages, and now we are working in over 3,000 villages in
Wow.
India, in
Mm,
13 states. So I think but as I say, people like Dr. Suri and they are visionaries. They're always
mm.
looking at another 25 years. They don't look at
Correct.
today. So the
Correct.
vision continues to evolve. How we can continue to make a difference for the
Mm.
future.
Very interesting. Thank you. And how, when I was reading about you and preparing for the conversation, I was fascinated that you do a lot of work in the area of water management. I'd
Sure.
love to get your perspective on how does the foundation approach water management in rural communities, which is a
Hmm.
serious challenge in our country,
Right.
and what innovations have proven to be most effective?
Right. Water management is extremely important. And we got into the water management with two distinct aspects. Is because agriculture without water, there's no agriculture. So we
Mm,
when we started working in the villages, and we knew from our seed business also, the
mm,
farmers struggle with water.
mm,
The communities suffer with water. The women suffer from the water perspective.
mm,
So
mm,
agriculture and women empowerment, that really led us into the water management initiative.
mm,
We There are tremendous challenges in water management. There is Water is only key sources. One is what falls from the sky and what's in the ground, and we
correct.
know very well the groundwater in our because of over extraction of water
Yeah.
is really, and there's quite a disparity. There's a haves and have-nots. People who can afford the bore wells and all, they can get the water to the easily, but then
Mm,
people who don't have those, especially the small farmers, they don't have access to the
mm,
water, so
mm,
they end up purchasing water, and the cost benefit, it doesn't really work out in their favor. So we said
mm,
we need to work on how do we conserve the water for the farmers in the communities, and so then bringing in can we bring technology. So for example, at the very beginning, we started working with the farmers on deploying the fields, because
mm,
basically when you basically generally the farmer plows the fields only 6 inches from the top, and then
mm.
they sow the seed.
Yeah.
But then we went in and said, let's go 18 inches down, so
Mm,
that it breaks the hard pan that builds up, and more
mm,
percolation of water that goes into the
mm,
ground for the
mm,
farming community. Then we also then said, how do we store the water as locally as possible?
mm,
And as I said, rains are the main source of water. And we looked at the terrains in the villages and see how, when the rains fall, how the water flows. And then we created check dams, for example. These are simple technologies, creating dams, small earthen dams, so the water slows down, percolates to the groundwater, because, as I said, the groundwater was depleting, and we need to recharge the groundwater. So we really put in a lot of emphasis on storing the water where
mm,
the water falls. So if it falls in the village, how do you work on rainwater harvesting, roof water harvestings in the village, in the community? Falls in the open areas, how to divert the water to the groundwater? And if it falls in the fields, how do we preserve that water? So smart ponds. And so then we brought in a lot of technologies, in the sense that for example, there's a lot of salinity in the groundwater in some areas.
yeah.
How do you handle that issue?
Mm,
So we created our technicians, Lalit Sharma and Salahuddin Sefi. They created a system how to preserve the water over the saline water. So creating these recharge wells where
mm,
the sweet water was being lighter, floats on the top, and the salt waters on the bottom, so the communities can draw the water
mm,
so I
yeah.
think that we brought in quite a bit of technologies from the agriculture perspective, also the plowing the fields in laser leveling the fields, which drives the efficiency. You have the drip irrigations that drive the efficiency in the water. So how do
Mm,
you preserve the water? How do you use it efficiently? And how do you make sure the water lasts, especially in the villages when a lot of the communities depends on the wells, and the wells dry out, and the women have
correct.
to go so far to get the water. We know the
Absolutely.
system very well. And
Mm,
how do you recharge the water, and so the wells will have water throughout
mm,
the year for
mm,
the communities? So I think it's very good question, in the sense that how do you deal with the communities on the waterage, because community has to get involved. We don't do
mm,
anything until the community comes forward and gets involved in the process.
mm,
If the community is not interested, then we don't really, until they are ready, for the water management, water these type of initiatives, we
mm,
don't particularly go into those areas, and until they are fully ready.
Very
Uh,
interesting.
we can do all these things, but they are the one who has to manage that water
Correct.
future.
Correct.
So I think this the sustainability
Is an
really
important
depends
factor.
on that particular aspect.
Absolutely right. Well said. Uh, you also were speaking a few minutes back about empowering women. And my next question is, what are some of the unique strategies the foundation has used to empower women in our rural areas?
Yeah, women empowerment is a key concept for us. We all across our programs, we particularly focus on the women empowerment.
Hmm.
In the early days, we started with a program we called the Life Skills Education Program.
Hmm.
And this program, because when we go into the villages, we saw the literacy rate being so low amongst the women. And we said, how do we at least teach them reading and writing? And we started with those particular aspects.
Yeah.
And sewing and stitching was the magnet so that you
Hmm.
give them a skill and also work on the teaching them a little bit of reading and writing math so they can manage on
Hmm.
the load. But we also did quite a bit of research of our own. We have a full program on research in the Sehgal Foundation, where the social scientists and look at what causes these type of issues. And it
Hmm.
was very evident for us that from our research it showed that the boys, any family had a little bit of money, they will send the boy to the government private school.
Yeah.
Girls end up in the government school, and at that particular time we also realized the government school had no water, there's no toilets for the girls,
Right.
no
Right.
basic facilities were really lacking. It's
Hmm.
unfortunate, but it's a reality. And so we really looked at those aspects. I said, so okay. So then we did a model of about three villages. We took three schools, government schools, where we said, let's upgrade all the facilities in the school. You have the proper benches, you have the no leaking roofs, all the roof water is harvested, a large amount of toilets for, especially for the girls with water, and
Hmm.
then have the facilities for the boundary wall so the school is secure, so the girls feel secure. So that particular pilot project that we did, it produced tremendous results in the sense that it shows that girls started coming to the school. They were remaining in school throughout the day because there were playgrounds, there's water. All of a sudden, there's an ecosystem that is built that they felt very secure in that.
Hmm.
Women empowerment, when we talk about it, doesn't it starts with the adult. It actually starts with the childhood.
Correct.
So we really started this program. We called it Transform Lives, one school at a time, and that was
Hmm.
basis for that program
Hmm.
was women empowerment, girls empowerment. And now more recently, and I think we have also said if these girls, and of course, these girls were coming now, school will have more teachers, and school is that the system started to work in these villages. But the one thing we're still lacking was technology. We said these girls have this availability of the those facilities so they can be more they can compete at the level of the girls the kids at the metro
Hmm.
level. So we
Hmm.
started the program on digital libraries in the
Hmm.
school where we have solar driven fully equipped computers with the full loaded software. We have touch screens, systems in the school where the kids, if they missed a lesson in the classroom, one of the key things that came out of COVID was the all the curriculum was digitized, and so the kids can go and look at that their lessons which they missed in the classroom, repeat the session so they can learn. So I think the developing, and that became another big magnet in the schools where the kids started to, the girls really started going after that, so that hey, and now it's just flourishing. We have done almost 240 schools in 9 states in India. We don't run these schools. The one
Yeah.
thing I want to make sure that
Hmm.
is very clear. These schools, we, as I've been mentioning, empowerment, empowerment, empowerment. The work
Correct.
in the community, we have to empower them. We have to work in the schools. School management committees have to be empowered to how to run these schools once
Hmm.
we go off to do other areas and work.
Hmm.
And so I think that has been a very critical aspect for us on the women empowerment. In addition, we have also started a lot of groups like the Sakhis and the village Sakhis and
Mm.
these women groups that empower them with the knowledge, because a lot of farming today is becoming on women. So how do you empower those women and make sure that they understand
Very
the
interesting.
technology, understand the information? So there's a
Fascinating.
lot more that I can share. I think I can take
No, no,
1 hour,
absolutely. But I
but I
want to, I
wanted
want
to
to keep
highlight.
moving ahead. But some very fantastic responses I'm getting from you.
Thank you.
Another thing that you told me, Jay, was that you work in over 3,000 villages. And one of the
Sure.
challenges I've often heard from people is how do private foundations work with local governments and panchayats?
Hmm.
What has
Hmm.
been your experience
Yeah.
in working with government bodies?
Right. And your experience has been tremendous. I think there's a lot of learning
Yeah.
from our side. It's
Hmm.
not, how do the panchayats work? Our goal is not to replace the panchayat. Now, how do we work? Again, I said empowerment, empowerment, empowerment. How do we
Correct.
work with them? I think the willingness of the community has willingness of the panchayat. I think it's very well said in many writings that one individual can make all the difference in the world.
Correct.
Sarpanch has the opportunity, and the local government has the opportunity to make that difference.
Hmm.
So unless we find that willingness in that particular level, difference. And places where we go in and the sarpanch is not interested, so okay, no problem. But until you're ready, we are
Hmm.
not ready. So
Hmm.
working on that particular level, well, our initiative from the very beginning, we make it very clear,
Hmm.
unless they join hands with us, unless the community join hands with us, we are not going to work in that community. The
Hmm.
sarpanch and the panchayat, they have to join hands with what we are trying to do. In the initial stages, we had a tremendous difficulty in that particular aspect because nobody knew in
Yeah.
the Sehgal Foundation 25 years ago when we started in 4 villages. We used to have a lot of meetings in the village, and the panchayat and the sarpanch finally got tired of us. As you were going to have all these meetings, or are you going to do any work? Because
Hmm.
we had certain principles from the very beginning. We said the women have to join hands with in the work we do. The elderly has to be in the part. The sarpanch has to be very. And then finally the community said, okay, we'll give you a chance to do something, and we'll join hands with you to do it. And they saw the type of work that we did in those villages, the 4 very beginning villages. Then the word spread.
Hmm.
Instead of us chasing the villages or villagers, people were coming to us.
Right.
How can we contribute? Tell us, how can we help? Can we? And so once that success is seen by other surrounding communities, and that really is literally like a blotting effect. You
Correct.
you know you have a little drop and it spreads, and that's
Hmm.
that's exactly that's exactly how. And then now
Amazing.
people understand it very well. If
Hmm.
you want the Sehgal Foundation to work in the villages, you have to have certain principles, certain facts. And we have walked away from the villages.
Hmm.
It's not,
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
not that I can give you all the glory of the fact that, yes, with the successes, we had failures also. We
Correct.
have to learn from our failures and see how we can further improve
Hmm.
to work. But the key thing that I do want to mention before is having a very, very dedicated social scientist. We had one of the top persons who was a community-based, Mr. Punia, worked very, very hard in the community. He was a community person. Our the current CEO, Anjali Makhija, is a social scientist who has worked tremendously in the communities. And I'm an IT guy. They were used to teach me what to do and what not to do. So there's a lot of
Hmm.
stories I can share in
I
that
know,
regard.
I'm sure.
But, but
But we'll
it is
keep that
the
for maybe another conversation, getting into more detail. But Jay,
sure,
I have time for two more questions for you.
absolutely.
Uh, Tell me about your engagement with the India Philanthropy Alliance and the work that you do collectively with them.
India Philanthropy Alliance, I think again, I think it goes back to a little bit of Dr. Suri's vision. And nearly 20 years ago, Dr. Suri saw not just the work in India, but he also saw that there's so many organizations which are based in the US doing work in India.
Mm,
And he was at that particular time try to get a coalition going
mm,
so that we can share our knowledge, share information. Because what happens today is that anybody starting a new work, they recreate the whole wheel because so much expense, so much financial resources go into the initial work. Whereas there's so many organizations who have that experience already. Why not to get together and share these experiences and get expedite the work of that needs to be done?
correct.
The vision. And so Dr. Surya thought about this 20 years ago.
Mm,
Then we learned about India Philanthropy Alliance from Alex Counts. Alex is a good friend for many years, and
mm,
he introduced me to India Philanthropy Alliance and asked us if we would be willing to join. And then we jumped right on it. I said, yes, this is exactly what the vision has been
mm,
for our founders, and said that, okay, how we can. So the idea, the India Philanthropy Alliance, we joined 5 years ago, and it's been a tremendous sharing of knowledge, sharing of information
mm,
between the organizations. What kind of difficulties others are facing, what kind of difficulties we are facing. We talk to each other, understand each other. India Philanthropy Alliance has been tremendous in uh, uh, organizing various town halls for
mm,
information that from with the auditors, with the FCRA, with the all those challenges that the nonprofits face, not just in India but as well as here in the US as well. We
mm,
have initiated the youth essay contest. We have our foundation, Sehgal Foundation, from very beginning has felt very strongly about involving youth in the work that we do. Give them
mm,
the opportunity, the kids who don't get the opportunities today to learn about India, learn about challenges India facing. We started that program and from very beginning
yeah.
to give the youth and the opportunity, and many kids from all over US go to the Sehgal Foundation for an internship. And when Alex mentioned to me about the youth essay context, we right away jumped on and says that yes, this is what we want to do, and that
Mm,
really ignites the youth's minds on think about how do you solve
correct.
India's challenges.
Correct.
That's one aspect. And then of course there's a philanthropy conferences and all those aspects that the IPA has. And it has been a tremendous experience being a vice chair on
Mm,
the India Philanthropy Alliance
mm,
as
mm. Amazing.
well.
And my last question for you,
Yeah.
Jay. How do you foresee the future of rural development evolving in India?
Right. Well, I think things will. I think first of all, do want to compliment the policies and that have come in to help the rural community. There's the Jal Shakti initiative
Mm,
of the government. There is the farmer initiatives of the government. It is these are very good initiatives
mm,
that has started. Really, I think the thinking of bottom up approach with the government has started, and that I think is going to change the
mm,
whole scenario in India. And I
mm,
think that's the changes are going to come in that particular aspect. There's no question.
mm,
I think I see the fact that I think the people are going to that we are already seeing that are starting to take that initiative instead of saying God, they will do it for us. I think in the rural communities, how I see where we work, especially how we can do it. It's
right.
not, the local phrase instead of what you can do for the country or, those
Yeah,
aspects. But
yeah,
I
yeah.
hear it is they are really looking at how we can take over. And until that mentality changes, we will always be, sorry to use the term, handed down kind of
Mm,
thing.
mm,
No,
mm.
it has to come up from that side.
Correct.
I think
Correct.
that's how the whole scenarios will change in the rural development, but it's a long-term
I
game.
agree. I agree.
It's not going to happen today.
Oh, no, it
We are a
will. But
country of
no, but
640,000
with
villages.
organizations like yours, I think the
Yeah.
direction setting is good. I think the amount of
And I
work
do
that
want
you're
to
doing.
add one
Yeah,
more
sure.
small thing is, and I really admire there are a lot of small organizations that work in the villages themselves,
Mm,
and I think there's a huge role for organizations like ours to bring them also up.
correct.
How do you share your knowledge? They don't have the resources.
Mm,
We may have the resources. We can reach to the Coca-Colas and these
yeah,
mosaics and they don't have those resources.
sure.
So I know there's a lot of restrictions on organizations to not to share finances, but we can, knowledge is free to share.
Absolutely.
You
I agree.
bring these organizations together, these
Mm,
smaller organizations working in the villages together, and share knowledge, share information, so they have that resources. They don't have to spend money on getting that type of knowledge where they can focus on the work. So there's a lot of good organizations who are
I know.
small, working in the villages. We need to empower them and bring them up so
Mm,
that the social development, rural development
yeah,
is not proprietary. It's
absolutely.
a goal for all of our nonprofits is one, that how do we empower these people, how we empower the rural community.
Absolutely.
And so
Absolutely.
we share the knowledge, share the information, and that's, I think, will be, and not just share, learn also from them
Correct. Correct.
what they are doing. So I think that
Absolutely.
that has been that
Very
was a
well said.
key
But
aspect.
on that note, Jay, I just want to say thank you for such a fabulous conversation. I think you're doing incredible work in India. And I can only say, uh, on behalf of Indians from rural India, and I'm associated with several organizations in rural India as well. Thank you for the great work you are doing, and good luck and more power to you.
Well,
Thank
thank
you
you for
again.
this opportunity, and it's been tremendous, and I really appreciated being on this, and thank you for that. Thank you, Ashutoshi.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the brand called You.